welcome to Debona's Kitchen. Today we will be making pancakes. So first thing I need to do, of course, is to wash my hands. And it's very important to use soap. And wash them good for 20 seconds. Drying with paper towels avoids passing germs to other people in the family if I had used a dish towel. Okay, what we're going to do is make sure we have our mise en place. Our mise en place is all our equipment and ingredients that we need for a recipe. So we need 1 egg, milk, flour, salt, baking powder, sugar. And our mixing ingredients are over here. We have a level, we have a spoon, we have a rubber scraper, dry measuring cups, and we also have measuring spoons. Okay. So I have read the recipe over, which is the first thing you always need to do to make sure you have all the ingredients. So my recipe says combine the eggs, the milk, and the oil. So we are going to need 1 beaten egg. And we all know that we need to put our egg in a separate dish. And the reason for this being is if the egg is spoiled or if I have eggshells in it, I don't want to put it in with my other ingredients or I would have to throw them out. Okay, it calls for 1 beaten egg, and actually I should put it in a bigger bowl because if I try to beat it, it's going to go all over the counter. Okay, so I'm going to take my 1 beaten egg, I'm going to put it in the bowl. Next, I'm going to add milk. It says a cup of milk. Now I'm using reduced fat milk to save calories, but you could use regular milk if you'd like your pancakes to be a little bit richer. Now it's calling for 1 cup of milk, and unfortunately right now I do not have a liquid measuring cup, but as I told you in class, you can use dry to measure liquids, but you cannot use liquid to measure dry. So I'm going to measure 1 cup, and I'm not going to measure it over my bowl in case it spills, because you need to have accurate measurements. Okay, so I'm going to put this in, and I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of oil. When you measure oil, if I go like this, there's too much chance of it falling into a bowl. So right now I'm just going to measure it over this cup I have here. Okay, so 1 tablespoon, of oil. So that's the first part of the recipe. Okay, the next step is to add the flour with the salt, baking powder, and salt, and sugar. So I'm going to take flour, and it says 1.5 cups. And if we remember from our flour demonstration, we are going to lightly spoon it into the cup. Going to take the straight edge. I have 1 cup. Next, I'm going to take 1/2 cup. Filling it all the way to the top. Again, take my straight edge. So it's 1.5 cups of flour. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And there's a big difference between teaspoon and tablespoon. So make sure that when the recipe calls for teaspoon, you choose the right measuring device. So it says a half of a teaspoon. And there are markings on each one of these measuring devices. Until you become very familiar in the kitchen, it's always a good idea to check out the measurements that you are doing this accurately. And again, I'm not going to measure over the bowl. Okay, so that's 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Next is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Baking powder is what's going to cause the pancakes to rise. So I'm going to take my spoon in there. Sometimes they have a straight edge and you can just more or less get it straight from here. So there's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Now, if your baking powder doesn't come like that, you just take the straight edge. Okay, so there's 2 teaspoons. This is called the dry ingredients. And then I would mix them up. Okay, the next step is we're going to add the dry ingredients into our wet ingredients. Now with quick breads, and pancakes are called quick breads, you would not use a mixer. Okay, you do not want to overdevelop the gluten, so stirring it with a spoon or a wooden spoon is fine. Okay, this is all mixed. We're ready for the next step. Okay, we are at the last step, and that is the actual making of the pancakes. So I have my batter over here, and I'm ready to make the pancakes. Now you can make pancakes any size you want. You can make the mini pancakes, you can make huge pancakes. It'll just take, a difference is in the amount of time that you're going to cook it. I'm using an electric griddle here. I've used electric fry pans. You could also make them on the stove if you don't have an electric griddle. The temperature is on 375. And it is now preheated, ready to go. Now you need some pans totally don't stick, some might stick a little. I tend to use just a little bit of pan spray. Okay. Some people like to put butter on their pan, some people like to put oil. It's all a matter of your preference. Now to make my pancakes all uniform, I use a 1/4 cup of measuring cup. And you can cook as many at a time as will fit on your skillet. Now the recipe here says yield, and we know what the word yield is, 6 to 8 pancakes. But that all depends on what size you're going to make them. All my batter is now on the griddle. And as you can see, one pancake is smaller than the others. I just had a little bit of batter left, but I don't like to waste food, so I made a mini pancake. Now, as you can see, they are just starting to get bubbles on the top. When they have bubbles completely on the top, then it is time to flip them. And it depends on how dark you like your pancakes. I tend to like mine a little darker. Some people like them lighter. Oops. Let's go for this one next. sometimes that happens when you're going to flip it. The main thing is you make sure that you get all the batters cooked. These are kind of together, so I'm going to separate them with my spatula. I'm going to flip them. And then I'm going to leave them on the second side. Okay, and as you see, I've already cleaned up my workstation, which is very important to clean up as you go. One of the most important tools that I've told you in the kitchen is the rubber scraper. The reason being is that you want to make sure that you get all batter out, first of all, to cook, but the second reason is any batter that you have, you should left over put in the garbage, because this has fat in it. You really don't want to put any foods with fat down the drain. Okay, it looks like my pancakes are finished. So now I will put them on the plate. And they are ready to go. I just wanted to show you a few items that I had in my kitchen. And there's all kinds of variations you could do with the pancakes. Now you can see I substituted low-fat milk for regular milk. This is also available on the market. This is called Kodiak cakes, and if you're watching calories, this is a good product to have because it is high in protein. This is another product. This is light pancake syrup. If I wanted to reduce my sugar, instead of using the regular syrup, I could use a less sugar product. The same way, if you have allergies, you could use gluten-free flour. So this is the end of my pancakes, my baking, and now it's time to enjoy.